In this collection, one man has a dual identity crisis. In another story, a man finds a bottle that can give him anything he wants. And in another one, a man is forced to come with the terms of his morality. That's right, today we will be reading The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and Other Strange Tales by Robert Louis Stevenson. Welcome back to BG's Books. I'm Mr. BG, and today we will be reviewing The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson and Other Strange Tales. So, I originally bought this book because I thought it was just about Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but as you see right there, it says, and Other Strange Tales. So this is more of a short story compilation, or I guess a novella and a short story compilation, rather than just a review of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So I was kind of thinking about what I should do with this. Should I just review Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, or should I review the other stories? And then I've decided I'm just going to review the stories in here and then address the final one, which I won't review, but I will get to that in time. So anyway, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, I'm sure you've heard of it. It's about morality and dual personality and stuff. It's like, I'm sure you've at least heard of it. It's like the Hulk from Marvel. That's like a major thing based off of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the story is certainly very famous, and it is just very well known. And even if you've never read it before, I'm sure you at least know what it's about. But to explain what Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and the other stories are about, I guess we should explain how they go. Alright, so now I will recap the stories. I have the book open to the contents page so that we can go story by story. So, of course, the first one is The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. This is also the longest one in this whole book. Well, actually, I guess the second longest one. I will get to that in a moment. But basically, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is about these two guys who are discussing that one of them saw a guy named Hyde violently kill someone. And so they think that's very strange. And in the meantime, a friend of theirs named Dr. Jekyll, he's kind of acting a little strange. He's starting to isolate himself. He's not acting like himself and whatever. And so they think that's, quite odd. So through a series of investigations across this entire story, they eventually call Jekyll's butler and he tells them that Dr. Jekyll has locked himself up in his science lab. So they go to his science lab and find Mr. Hyde dead on the floor in Jekyll's clothes. And they read a couple letters, one of which is by Dr. Jekyll, basically explaining that he kind of had this potion that he drank that turned him into this Mr. Hyde thing, but he didn't like it, so he used this thing with like some impure salt that kind of kept the beast at bay, turned him back into Jekyll. And it worked for a while, but over time, Hyde started coming out more, even while Jekyll was sleeping, and even while he was awake eventually. And Hyde just got like really out of control really fast. And so Jekyll realized that the only way to stop Hyde is that if they both die, because they are the same person. So what I'm imagining here is that Jekyll drank poison, and then as Hyde fully took over, the poison fully took effect, and then died. So there's a lot of ambiguity to this one, which I think is really good because we don't need like an explanation for every single thing that happens. But yeah, I think Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is certainly the standout story of this collection because obviously. So, I mean, yeah, Jekyll and Hyde is just really good. Anyway, moving on to the second story, which is very much down the way, The Body Snatcher. So The Body Snatcher is similar in tone to Jekyll and Hyde. It's like the Gothic horror type of thing in London, but this one is about two medical school buddies who under the assignment of their professor, have to secure dead bodies in order to dissect them in class, you could say. So basically, what this entails is that they grave rob, they go to cemeteries, dig up the bodies, and then prepare the bodies for dissection. And then after the dissection is done, they destroy the bodies. And so that's kind of very gruesome. And yeah, so as I said, it's very similar in tone to Jekyll and Hyde, just because of like how morbid it is, I guess you could say. But the story isn't bad in itself. It's quite a bit shorter than Jekyll and Hyde, obviously, but you can just tell that some weird stuff is going on because I mean it's literally about two medical students grave robbing bodies and then destroying them after the dissections are done. It's like it's so messed up, but the Body Snatchers is so good. Okay, and so the third story we have is the Bottle Imp. And I'm just going to say it right off the bat. I wasn't a huge fan of Bottle Imp, and after I explain to you what it's about, you'll understand why. But basically, the Bottle Imp is about Native Hawaiians this time. It's also a fantasy story, not a gothic horror like the other ones in here, so that's why I don't like it. It's a fantasy story. But basically, it's about this Native Hawaiian man named Keawe, I think that's what his name is, and he gets sold a bottle that can grant him any wish that he could possibly want. But after he's done, to avoid the curse that happens, which is you'll go down there, you have to sell the bottle to someone else for a price lower than what you bought it for. So like say you bought it for $5, you got to sell it for $4, and then, so on. That's how it works. And so basically, in true story fashion, this bottle ends up being more of a pain than it's worth, and stuff goes from there. So yeah, the Bottle Imp is probably my least favorite story from this collection, just because it's like a fantasy and it's very much detached from Jekyll and Hyde and Body Snatcher and even the next story that we'll begin discussing. But I mean, I guess it's a good moral. Don't do questionable stuff, I guess, maybe. I don't know. This story just kind of bored me. It was way too much fantastical, and I mean the Native Hawaiian stuff. It's like, okay, I didn't realize Robert Louis Stevenson wrote stuff about that. But all right, I guess that's interesting. But yeah, so the Bottle Imp, it's not for me. But if you're into fantasy, I think you might like it. All right, and so the next story we have up is Markheim, and this is also the last story I will be reviewing in detail. So basically, on Christmas Eve or Christmas night or something, around Christmas, this man comes into this pawn shop named Markheim, and he's trying to sell some stuff from family members that have passed on. And the shop owner, he buys them anyway, but he has a suspicion that maybe these aren't items from this guy's family members, but perhaps stolen goods. And so once he brings this to the attention, Markheim grabs a knife and stabs him to death. And so later on, this man comes in who Markheim thinks is the devil because he's very clearly supernatural. And the supernatural guy kind of tells him, come on, just admit what you do. And so Markheim is just like, all right, fine. I kill people and take their stuff, and I sell them for money. Because his whole guise is that he wants to, buy a present for a girl he intends to marry, or, something like that. But in actuality, he just kills people, steals their items, and then just sells those items for money. He's a very depraved individual. And so, yeah, the demon guy is just like, yeah, I knew it. And so Markheim just kind of has to live with the fact that he's kind of a bad guy. Even though he doesn't like evil, he's not good, but he doesn't like evil either. So that's kind of a moral dilemma, I guess you could say. Anyway, Markheim is just about a guy who kills, steals items from those dead people, and then sells them, and then has to come with the fact that maybe he's not as good a guy as he wants to admit that he is. So yeah, Markheim was really interesting, for sure. It's certainly another shorter one, but it's really interesting if you can get into it. And then, of course, the last story in this collection is called Weir of Hermiston. And this is one that I will not be reviewing, and I'm going to explain why. Because the way that this book is marketed, it's marketed as Other Strange Tales, so I thought it would be like, you know, all Gothic horror or just like short stories or whatever. Weir of Hermiston is none of those. First of all, it is a romance, which, like the Bottle Imp, is certainly an interesting thing to put in this collection, considering it's about Jekyll and Hyde and other like morally gray characters. And also, it is an unfinished full-length novel that Robert Louis Stevenson was writing as he died. And so that's why I don't want to review it, because I didn't realize it was going to be a full-length novel. I wasn't told that it was a novel, so I had to look it up, find out that it was an unfinished novel. There's like 100 pages or something in there. And so, yeah, I mean, I can always come back and review Weir of Hermiston if you guys want me to, of course. But the fact that it was a novel that I was not aware was in here, that kind of I guess you could say that kind of threw off the flow of this collection for me. So anyway, yeah, I'm just gonna stop the summary there. So yeah, those are the stories. So overall, what did I think about this little collection of stories by Robert Louis Stevenson? Well, for the most part, I thought it was really well made. Of course, Jekyll and Hyde and the Body Snatcher were the standouts, but I also did enjoy Markheim as well. The Bottle Imp was okay, and then of course, since The Weir of Hermiston was an unfinished romance novel, not only do I not think that it should be in this collection, I just don't think I should have to review it unless you want me to in a separate video, in which case I can. But I don't know how you guys would feel about me reviewing an unfinished novel, because every novel I've reviewed up to this point has either been a collection of short stories that have all been completed or have just been completed novels in themselves. So I've never read a incomplete novel before. But I mean, if you guys want me to, I'll go back to it and I'll read it, and I will see if you want me to like look at it and stuff, because I can if you want me to, but I don't want to feel like pressured into, because yeah, I just don't really want to do that at the moment. I'm currently reading some other books right now, but yeah, as I said, if you want me to read that, I will read it and then review it for you guys. Anyway, I just thought it was kind of weird to include a fantasy story and a unfinished romance novel in a collection mostly of Gothic horror short stories and a novella. So that's kind of the only part that threw me off. Overall, I think Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and Other Strange Tales is a perfectly fine collection. Robert Louis Stevenson seems like he knows what he's doing when it comes to writing. I don't think all of his stories are for me personally. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde kept my attention, and Body Snatcher was pretty interesting, but after that I kind of started to get a little tired of it, if you understand. So yeah, Robert Louis Stevenson, I don't think he's for everyone, but he certainly does have some stories that I do like. So, and I also have his Treasure Island book, so I will also be reviewing that in the future, so stay tuned for that as well. But anyway, yeah, this collection is just perfectly fine with a couple of odd choices, but I didn't publish it, so what are you gonna do? Anyway, yeah, I would say if you got to read this at all, read it for Jekyll and Hyde and the Body Snatcher, and then maybe read Markheim if you want to, but definitely read it for Jekyll and Hyde and maybe Body Snatcher. But yeah, so go read this for those stories. But that is the end of the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Again, I'm sorry for not reviewing the last story, but since it was an unfinished romance novel that seemed to be full length, I just did not feel comfortable reviewing that in like a story collection. But anyway, aside from that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to like and subscribe if you have not already. We are still very much on that train to 300 subscribers, so please, let's get going there. But anyway, I gotta go take my medicine real quick. So, yeah, I've been Mr. BG, and this has been BG's Books, and I will see you guys in the next video. So, I gotta go take my medicine. See you later, guys. What's happening?